After our success at Iwo Jima, we are going to engage in what's called the Battle of Okinawa. This is the last battle of World War II. It was a long-time Japanese colony, and so it was a very bloody battle, but we needed it for our staging ground because we had come up with this thing called Operation Coronet, which was the code name for our invasion of Japan. And so we needed to have some place where we could move all of our personnel and then throw everything from there onto Japan at once. So we won this battle and we began preparing for this invasion. It was predicted that if we did Operation Coronet, this invasion of Japan, it would cost the U.S. at least 1 million casualties, and it would probably be just as costly for the Japanese, if not even more so. The Japanese were readying themselves for this last-ditch effort, and Hirohito ordered everyone in the country to prepare for this battle and fight to the death. Truman, when he became president after FDR died, he became presented with another option. Instead of this all-out invasion of Japan, there was this extremely controversial secret mission that he looked at and decided to take, but it almost cost him the election in 1948. What was this secret mission? It started with Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was the best scientists of the day, obviously Einstein, and then also Enrico Fermi and J. Robert Oppenheimer, headed by General Leslie Groves. And they had been experimenting with atomic energy, trying to find different ways of harnessing different energy sources and seeing if these could be used into weaponry. So using the discoveries, they created a uranium bomb called Little Boy and a plutonium bomb called Fat Man. They had done tests with smaller bombs in the desert and that type of thing. So they knew that it was a pretty bad bomb, but they didn't know how bad it would be. Nonetheless, they loaded them onto the B-29, the Enola Gay, on the USS Indianapolis, and the plane's pilot was this man here, Colonel Paul Tibbets. They headed to Okinawa, and then, on the morning of August 6, 1945, Little Boy was dropped on the city of Hiroshima, the Japanese city. This is a hugely important date because it is the date that the world enters the nuclear age. 40,000 Japanese people were incinerated immediately. It also contaminated the air, water, and soil so badly that for years, thousands more continue to die from radiation poisoning, that have horrible birth defects, get cancer, all types of horrible, horrible aftermaths. Just 3 days later, Boxcar, a different plane, drops the other bomb on the city of Nagasaki. This one was even more deadly, resulting in 73,000 deaths immediately. 74,000 are wounded and 120,000 are diseased. And this is on that day. And once again, the disease will continue to plague the city for years and years to come. This is what happens when you drop atomic bombs. Okay, this is a child who's been scorched. The city is razed to the ground. Radiation poisoning. Burned, your skin burned completely. The clothes you're wearing burned into your skin. For some people, this was a man who was sitting on the steps. All that was left of him was the shadow here of these. This is what happens when we enter the atomic age. It is a very scary, very sad occasion. We dropped the bombs because we thought we could save lives in the long run. We also had obviously an element of racism. They got us, let's go and get them. You know, it was revenge for Pearl Harbor. We wanted to make a statement about our strength. Look at how strong we are. Don't mess with us. We've got bombs that can do this. We didn't know it'd be that bad, but it still says we're pretty tough. And we wanted to end the war. And this happens, right? We could not, the Japanese could not respond. So Hirohito, speaking in public for the first time ever, instructs the Japanese to surrender, which they do on September 1st, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri. September 1st, 45 becomes known as VJ Day, or Victory in Japan. This is the official end of World War II. So that makes the war exactly 6 years long. The results of the war in the Pacific: Japan lost lots of their empire and their colonies, including Korea. This is ultimately going to set the stage for the Korean War in 1950. We established a sphere of influence within Japan and Korea. We feel bad after dropping the bombs. We didn't know it was going to be that bad. So we are going to help Japan rebuild. And actually, within a pretty short time, we're friends with Japan again. Russia is going to establish a sphere of influence in China and the northern part of Korea. And this really establishes we are the world police, not just in Europe, in Asia too. Here are some casualty figures from the war. I mean, you're looking, these are in millions. So obviously very high death toll, very, very costly. In terms of the Allies, 64% of the Allies killed in the war were from Russia. China, you see, had a huge death toll. They were in the middle of a civil war before World War II happened. They kind of take a time out to fight World War II against the Japanese, and then they're going to pick up their civil war. So we don't really talk about them a lot now because we will when we talk about their civil war. In terms of the Axis, Germany lost the most. And then here are just some random images from the war. This is battleship and aircraft carrier fighting. This is in Normandy, one of the makeshift cemeteries that was created. FDR signing some paperwork. Comic books and cartoons were all geared towards the war effort. Comic books were very popular in the war. They were easily carried around by the soldiers, and so they created like Captain America, and that was so that regular Joe soldier could feel, you know, a sense of pride, like, oh, he's a superhero and he's doing that, maybe I'm a superhero too. You're probably wondering this. Hitler sketched this car design in his head on a napkin. He wanted a car that all the people of Germany could afford, a people's car. In German, that translates to Volkswagen. So Hitler actually designed the first Beetle, basically. This is the Enigma machine. It was used for sending codes and ciphered telegrams. And it was considered one of the best code-making machines in the world until we were able to break their code largely using Navajo Indians and their language. They were able to translate it. G.I. Joe, you know, he was based on World War II soldier. The original G.I. Joe had a scar on his face. This is Bob Hope. He was one of the main comedians who would go over and entertain our troops. The Kennedy brothers fought in the war. We've already talked about JFK was legitimately a war hero. His boat exploded and he swam through shark-infested waters with his broken back to save his men. This was his brother Joe, his older brother. Joe was killed in an air raid in World War II. And then there is the World War II Memorial in D.C.